And next week, actors from some of your favorite TV dramas of the past and present will be in Rochester. However, they'll be performing a different type of drama, a live reading of the Greek tragedy Ajax. The ancient play describes the visible and invisible wounds of war. The play is part of an innovative public health project intended to create an open dialogue and understanding about the impact of war on veterans, their families, and communities. Joining me at the desk to discuss in more detail is Marine Corps combat veteran and Vice Chairman of the Board for Veterans Outreach Center, Nick Stefanovich, and Army veteran and Executive Director of Veterans Outreach Center, Laura Stradley. Welcome to both of you, and I appreciate you being here, and congratulations also on the new job.
Well, thank you. We're very excited to be here.
So when individuals make the transition from military life, from serving our country overseas back to civilian life, I understand that these stories definitely would vary based on the individual experiences of those individuals. And I also would have to believe that, as we've heard from stories, that there are unimagined pain and wounds that come along with that. Nick, you have shared your story in front of national audiences, on national television as well. And I want to know, for viewers that are meeting you for the first time, what do you want them to learn about your story, post-combat struggles, and the importance of hearing these stories?
Yeah, so I guess one of the most important things would be to acknowledge that combat impacts everyone. However, not everyone develops a debilitating form of post-traumatic stress. And so all combat veterans have the potential to return to our community and become leaders and to serve our community. However, some need help. They need our society to kind of intervene and remove the obstacles that stand in their way. You know, when I came back in 2006, for 3 years I struggled. And it was a downward spiral for me. And it was through the Veterans Outreach Center and our Veterans Treatment Court and bringing attention to the community, which Theater of War is doing, that I was able to return finally to the community and become a leader and an advocate.
Well, as I mentioned, on September 22nd, the Veterans Outreach Center will be hosting a production of something that has traveled throughout the U.S. and also Europe, and that's Theater of War. And this presentation really incorporates readings of the Greek tragedy Ajax. And I want to ask you, for people, they may think, Laura, a Greek tragedy. What is it about the importance of this story that really does draw upon a connection to what our combat veterans have experienced, are experiencing today?
Sure. Well, it's really it's amazing actually when you look at the storyline of this play and how similar many of the struggles that the key characters in the play had that are similar to those that our returning veterans experience today. And it just kind of shows that, you know, even over hundreds and hundreds of years, we still have work to do when it comes to learning how to receive our military service members back into the community in a way that enables them to, you know, be, as Nick mentioned, you know, just the most productive and leaders and that type of thing. And again, certainly not everybody experiences those transitional challenges, but for the ones that do, this play really highlights a lot of the work that we at the Veterans Outreach Center do with people who are coming home struggling with maybe some mental health issues, substance abuse, and all those types of things.
Well, as I mentioned, following the Theater of War, there will be a conversation. This is an open dialogue, so members of the community encouraged to attend. And Nick, that you will be on this panel that will be present. And part of this is, it's about the dialogue, it's about sharing stories as you did with us right now. I want to know, what is it and what ways can this really serve as a bridge building type of a project for creating understanding? How does that happen?
It's an amazing process, actually, and the producer behind this is a genius in how he did this. So he created this idea of using theater to help our society come together on issues that we cannot seem to come together on in other ways. And so the actors read the roles, and as soon as the actors are done, he takes them out of the equation. People are not there to meet actors or take pictures. They leave the stage, and a panel takes the stage. And the panel members each give 5 minutes of how they relate to the play, and then once they're done, they're done. And then he turns his back to the panel, he goes out into the audience, and he says, you know, to the 500, 600 people there, discuss it. And I have seen topics range from racism in the military to alcoholism to, I mean, in New York City, somebody stood up and wanted to talk about the most recent transgender ban from the Trump administration. And you get these really political, charged topics that people just fight over, but how somehow he builds an atmosphere where there is no hostility. Everybody's comfortable and they share their ideas. He did something like this when the race riots were going on in Ferguson, Missouri. He brought a play of this nature there, and it was amazing. He has a picture in the beginning of the theater, and on one side is the law enforcement community, and on the other side is the minority population of Ferguson. And then he has a second picture after the event, and it's the stage, and both groups are together and speaking about the issues. And so what the reason why I wanted to bring this to Rochester is I've never before seen the civilian community understand combat and what our veterans are going through as well as they did after watching this play.
So I would imagine that Veterans Treatment Court would be one thing that would come up when you're on the panel. Talk a little bit about that, because I am quite certain that we have some viewers and they're tuning in and they're hearing about this for the very first time. Describe what is Veterans Treatment Court and how do former military find themselves walking through the doors?
Yeah, so Veterans Treatment Court is just a really wonderful testament to how our community has come together to support military and the issues that sometimes they have after service. We have had Veterans Treatment Court here in Rochester for, what's it been, Nick, about 10 years?
2008,
yeah,
I believe it was.
Almost 10 years, and we were the second one in New York State to have it. And we have had other treatment courts around the country come and model after ours. And essentially, when a veteran gets arrested for, you know, some nonviolent crimes, then they have an opportunity to go through a treatment program that not only gets them connected to the veteran benefits that they may be eligible for and never knew they were, you know, could be receiving. They get peer mentors, which is a huge component of it, and really gives them that that support that they need from somebody who understands the challenges, the unique challenges that they face. And they go through a year-long program in some cases where you know, they're expected to have sobriety and meaningful employment and all those kinds of things. And at the end of it, you know, if they graduate from the Veterans Treatment Court, they're in such a better position to continue on with the rest of their life, you know, successfully. And the Veterans Outreach Center, we're a very integral part of the Monroe County Veterans Treatment Court, and we are actively involved with all the veterans who come through that program. We've got case managers that facilitate a lot of the work that gets done there, and we have a lot of supportive services within our agency that the veterans who go through treatment court are then afforded, whether that's, you know, assistance with budgeting or legal issues, you know, therapy, wellness, supportive housing, all those kinds of things we're able to provide to them through our relationship with the Veterans Treatment Court.
And Nick, you called it a transformative process.
Yeah, I went through the court in 2009, and I'm only alive today because of the court. You know, I spoke at the 9/11 event a couple of days ago, and I spoke about Judge DeMarco. Judge DeMarco is the presiding judge over the Veterans Treatment Court. And Judge DeMarco didn't serve in the military, but in this way, he's serving our community more than many of those who did serve in the military. And there are veterans today who are only alive because of what him and his team have done on that on the bench. The court is an amazing process, an alternative to incarceration. You know, and you know, for the last year, I've been working in jails and prisons across the country, and so the population in those jails and prisons, the majority of it are men and women who don't need to be there, who should be out in our community, taxpayers, leaders, contributing to the community, and because of, you know, mental health or substance abuse or other issues like that, we have them locked up and they cannot contribute in that way. And this is one of the programs that allows us to get into that population, and instead of saying, how can we throw you away for 10 years, it's how can we help you reintegrate into society.
Well, we have to close for now, but I want a special thank you to my guests, Nick Stefanovich and Laura Stradley, for your time today. Theater of War, it is an event not to miss. So please, Veterans Outreach Center, they are hosting this. This takes place next Friday, September 22nd at 6:30 p.m. in the Callahan Theater at Nazareth College. For more information and to get your tickets, go to boxoffice.naz.gov. stanford.edu.